Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, The Emissions. Today we are going to talk about one of the biggest challenges that our planet is facing right now, and that is climate change. It's a topic we have all heard about, but in 2024, it's important than ever to take real meaningful actions. So why we should focus on resolving climate change issues, and how can we as an individual actually help? Let's dive into it. So first of all, what is climate change? Simply put, climate change refers to long-term shifts in the temperatures and weather patterns. While these changes can occur naturally by human activities, particularly the burning of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas, are accelerating these shifts at an alarming rate. Over the past century, we have seen a significant rise in greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide being released into the atmosphere. These gases trap heat, causing the Earth's temperature to rise. This leads to extreme weather patterns. Think more intense storms, wildfires, droughts, and rising sea levels. Now, why is this so important in 2024? Well, we are already witnessing the effects. For example, devastating wildfires in Australia and California, or the historic flooding in Pakistan last year. These aren't random events, they are part of a much larger pattern caused by climate change. Scientists warn that if we don't act now, things will get only worse. The global temperature is on track to rise by 1.5 degrees Celsius to 2 degrees Celsius by the end of this century. That may not sound like much, but even small changes in average temperatures can have huge consequences. We are talking about more extreme weather, disrupted food supplies, and even the displacement of millions of people due to rising sea levels. But here is the good news. We can still turn things around. While it won't be easy, but there are real solutions. And it starts with understanding how we can tackle climate change as a society and what we can do as an individuals. So what are the ways we can resolve this issue? The big picture solutions are on a global scale, like governments, industries, and organizations need to shift to renewable energy sources like solar, wind, hydropower. These energy sources don't emit carbon dioxide unlike fossil fuels. For example, countries like Denmark and Germany are leading the charge in renewable energy adoption. They have significantly reduced their dependence on coal and gas, and cities across the world are promoting electrical cars and public transport to cut down on emissions from vehicles. Businesses can also play a huge role. From reducing waste to adopting sustainable practices, companies can lower their carbon footprints, and some are already making strides in that direction. For instance, brands like Patagonia and IKEA are committed to using recycled materials and renewable energy. But it's not just about what governments and companies do. We all have to play a role, and it starts with small changes in our daily lives. So let's get real for a second. Climate change, it can feel overwhelming, right? Like, what difference can just one person really make? But here is the thing. When millions of people start making small, conscious choices, the collective impact is massive. It's like a ripple in a pond. One tiny action is spread out and grows bigger and bigger. Let's talk about a few things you can and I can do in our everyday life to help fight climate change. And trust me, they are easier than you think. So the first thing that I would like to highlight here is reduce energy use at home. I will admit, I used to leave lights on all the time without even thinking about it. But it turns out that something as simple as turning off the lights when you leave the room can really add up. For instance, if you turn off just one light when you don't need it, you are saving energy. And those little moments can actually reduce your energy used by up to 5%. And now imagine if every household did that, we would save enough energy to power 7 million homes. Isn't that wild? Then there is unplugging devices, things like phone chargers or the TV that you leave plugged and still use energy when you are not using them. It's called phantom energy. I used to keep everything plugged in, but now I make a habit to unplug what I don't need, and it can save up to 10% on your energy bill. I mean, why pay for electricity when you are not even using it? And these are the stuffs we don't even notice most of the time, and that can have such a big impact. But the best part, these are the things we can all do without really changing our routines. Another point that I would like to highlight here is using public transport. Okay, let's talk about getting around. Okay, I know driving is super convenient, but our cars are a huge part of the problem. Every time we drive a gas-powered car, we are pumping carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. But don't worry, you don't need to go out and buy an electric car tomorrow or make a difference. Just making small shifts can help. For example, I try to take public transportation at least a couple of times a week. Doing that, I can reduce my carbon footprint by 1,600 pounds of CO2 every year. If we all did this, we could cut transportation emissions by 20%, and that is huge. And another option can be buying an electric car. If you're thinking about a new car down the line, why not consider an electric vehicle? I know they can seem expensive, but they are becoming more affordable, and they don't release carbon dioxide like gas cars do. Plus, with the rise of renewable energy, charging them with clean power makes them even better. People in countries like Norway are already making the switch, and their transportation emissions have been permitted. Another most important point is recycle and reduce waste. Recycle is one of those things we hear all the time, but it's actually so important. When you recycle, you are directly cutting down on waste and emissions. And here is how it adds up. Recycling 1 ton of paper saves 17 trees and enough energy to power the average home for 6 months. It's hard to believe something as simple as recycling paper can have that much impact, but it does. And recycling just 1 aluminum can saves enough energy to power a TV for 3 hours. If every Indian American recycled just 1 more can each week, we could save 90,000 metric tons of CO2 a year. Don't forget about composting. Food waste is a huge contributor to methane emissions when it ends up in landfills. By composting food scraps, you are reducing those emissions and helping the soil. It's a win-win. It might seem like a small things to recycle or compost, but when we all do it, the positive impact is undeniable. And the last, most important is use your voice and advocate for change. Lastly, let's talk about the power of speaking up. Using your voice to advocate for climate action is one of the most powerful tools that we all have. Let's talk about the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement is a great example of what happens when people push for a change. It was the result of global pressure, showing that when people speak up, leaders listen. This agreement aims to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, which could help prevent some of the worst impact of climate change. The another way of using your voice is by voting leaders who prioritize the environment. In 2020 US elections, younger voters who cared about climate change helped elect leaders who promised to invest in clean energy and reduce emissions. Their votes directly shaped the future of climate policies. You can also join marches, sign petitions, or even just share information on social media. In 2019, millions of people worldwide joined climate strikes, and that kind of momentum led to more than 70 countries pledging to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. It's easy to feel like our voices doesn't matter, but when we come together, we can really push for the changes that need to happen. You have more power than you think. So there you have it. These are just a few ways we can all chip in to make a real difference. Whether it's taking public transportations or even just turning on the lights when we leave a room, each little action adds up. And when we do them together, the impact is huge. It's not about being perfect. It's about making small changes that collectively lead to big results. We have got this. Let's build a better future for ourselves or for the planet. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Take care.